that encourage us to be kind of happy and fulfilled from within ourselves. So rather than focusing on external kind of factors like money, status and power, which fundamentally don't leave you feeling fulfilled, it looks at, okay, what can you do within yourself? So it's things like, how can you have more positive relationships in your life? How can you increase your kind of self-efficacy? So that's your belief within yourself. How can you focus more on being engaged, you know, within life? So it's really focusing on that. And we use that on how you can actually improve work. So the principles apply. You can use it within the workplace, you can use it within your life as well. And that's what we do in my organization. It's kind of the basis of what we do, which is about, well, how do we create these healthier workplaces where people feel happy, where they feel fulfilled, where they enjoy their work, where they feel motivated. And one of the greatest inhibitors to having that lovely, healthy, happy kind of workplace, work life is unfortunately burnout. And that's why within my organization, we spend a lot of time working with companies, not just in the UK, but globally, helping their leaders understand how they can prevent burnout from taking hold of their business, because it doesn't just destroy your business, it destroys the people. You know, it destroys lives. Like, I mean, even before the pandemic kicked off, there were 2.8 million deaths globally from overwork alone. Wow. It's like, it's not a joke, you know, like the pandemic was a catalyst, if you like, you know, and it kind of, you know, lit the torch under the kind of burnout fire. Wow. And it made it burn harder and brighter and faster. But it was there already. Yeah. We know already from the research that people who are burnt out are 63% more likely to take sick days from work and 23% more likely to visit the emergency room. So it's a really serious thing. But I think that the thing is with burnout, and this is how I often to kind of describe it to people, you know, that kind of frog that's in the hot water. Yeah. You've heard that, yeah. The thing is that burnout takes quite a while to really manifest, you know, by the time you're at the stage where it's quite late. So that's why that frog can remain in the hot water, getting nicely warmed up as time goes on, you know, and you kind of like, people tend to push themselves through it. I'll just do one more project, one more deadline, I'll hit it. I'll just carry on, I'll be able to manage, I'll cope. But actually, by the time the frog is ready to jump out the boiling water and they realize it's boiled, at that point, when you've reached that absolute point of exhaustion, is when you are going to have to take 6 months off work, at least, minimum. And you're not going to be able to go, you can't go through like life going on like that. So that kind of image that people have of the head on the desk, they think that is just burnout. It's not. It starts way, way before then. It's a slow burner. And that's why I'm really, I mean, it's happened to me twice in my career. It's almost destroyed me. And so I'm really, really passionate about it. And the thing is that burnout is preventable, totally preventable. It doesn't have to happen. It really can, an organization can stop it from happening. And so we've got a real opportunity, you know, to do something about it. So it's a real like mission. It's a mission, of course. Yeah, you're a woman on a mission to prevent burnout. You see, the things that we have experienced, I mean, that we had some hardships, we had some issues, and then when we get out of it, we overcome it, then we want to help others. And that's why I understand you're passionate about it. But what's the difference between stress and burnout? So burnout is defined as a chronic stress, which is unmanaged. Chronic stress, which is unmanaged. So the World Health Organization, because burnout is becomes so serious and it's become so widespread. In fact, there was a survey that was done by, do you know Indeed.com, the job search company? Yes. And that was done in March, I think 2021. And the survey that they did, and it was quite a widespread survey, they found 50% of the workforce were saying they were burnt out. That's massive. I mean, that's big. So that's why the World Health Organization have classified it as an occupational phenomena. And they've said that it's actually something that can be diagnosed by a doctor, and actually you can get time off work for it. The difference is with because stress, I think, gets a bit of a bad rep. With stress, there's like what I call the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay. So there's the good side of stress, which is called eustress. So EU and then stress. And that's a positive psychology term. And that's kind of, you know, when you feel a bit excited and you've got a challenge ahead of you and you think, you know what, I can do this. That's what we'll call eustress. You know, it's not a state that you stay in for a long period of time. In positive psychology, we have a term called optimal performance. So that it kind of describes how you can get yourself into that zone and you're like, yeah, I can do this. Then you've got the bad side of stress, which is what most people think of when they think of stress. And that's when your heart starts to beat really fast, your hands get a bit clammy, and you think, oh my God, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. So you start to feel quite overwhelmed. That's what most people think stress is. And that's the kind of the overwhelmed bit of stress. And then you've got the ugly side of stress, and that's where you get into burnout. So that's where the stress is left completely unmanaged. And it's become so chronic that actually it makes you physically, mentally, and psychologically unwell. And so there's kind of, if you like, different compartments of it. It's a bit of a journey. And so often when, you know, the workshops and the kind of work that we do with organizations is very much to kind of educate people that, you know, don't fear stress. It's not necessarily bad for you. There was a survey done in the US in 2015. I think they surveyed like 10,000 US adults, and they asked a question which was, do you think stress is bad for you? And the people who answered yes exhibited worse physical health symptoms than the people who said no. So this perception that we have that stress is bad for us has become so prevalent in our society that it actually makes us fear it. And that in itself makes us experience the bad side of stress. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, but in a bad way. And that doesn't have to be, you know, our experience of it. We don't have to experience stress in a bad way. We can experience it in other ways.
Yeah, but good stress that motivates me to accomplish my goal, that is good. Of course, it has to be a realistic goal and not something impossible that I should be doing, let's say, in 6 months. I don't want to do it in 1 month, something like that. But how long does it take to go from just being stressed to have chronic stress that turns into burnout? Is there like a timeline? Is that on average? What is it? Or is it depends on the person?
Totally depends on the person. The thing is with burnout, it's quite multifaceted and multi-layered. So if you imagine 3 kind of circles on the screen, the majority of what causes, and when we talk about burnout, we're talking about it in the workplace. So that's what the World Health Organization has described as an occupational phenomena. So there's one kind of like of the 3 circles is the bigger one, and that is workplace issues. So workplace issues are what contribute the most to burnout. It's actually not an individual thing. It's actually how the organization is set up and run. And then you've got a slightly smaller circle, and within that is personality types. So some people are more predisposed to burnout. So that might be people who are overachievers, people who are perfectionists, people with imposter syndrome. Interestingly, what we found in the pandemic was introverts experienced higher levels of burnout, because when they weren't able to have their normal workplace social interactions, which for a lot of them would have been their main social interactions in their life, they experience high levels of burnout, because one of the contributors of organizational burnout is actually a lack of community. And then the 3rd circle is belief systems. So that's things like some people believe work is their God, you know, like work is everything. Some people identify them, their whole basis of identity is based on work. Some people believe things like the harder I work, only by hard work will I do really well, you know. You have to work harder, otherwise you won't get ahead. You know, those kind of belief systems that become so entrenched in you that you can't separate it, you know, from reality, and you almost kill yourself trying to achieve them.
Wow.
So it can be very different, in answer to your question, as to who is going to experience it and for how long that frog is going to be in the hot water before they can't take it anymore. And everybody has different thresholds. But if you are working in an organization, even if you're not of the personality type, even if you don't have those belief systems, if you work in an organization that is set up, that is going to allow their employees to get into a state of burnout, then it's going to happen anyway, whether you are that type or not. It's just that if you're that type, you'll probably get there quicker.
So if I understand, okay, so, but I suppose it doesn't take like 2 weeks to get a burnout.
No.
It'll take a couple of months at least.
No. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then, I mean, if it's so common in the workplace, then those employers or organizations or companies, they're the ones who have to do something about it.
Yes.
I mean, they should have like a program, a framework that, you know, watch out for the employees and their welfare. And
yeah, so what's interesting at the moment is never before have we had more investment in kind of, you know, well-being support and resources within companies. Like the pandemic has highlighted it, companies are aware of it, they are spending more. But what's happening is that the way that well-being programs and well-being strategies are mainly run in organizations, they mainly focus on the treatment, and there's less focus on prevention. So what I'm talking about here is, how do you prevent the burnout from happening? Because once the burnout has taken hold, then it's a treatment program and you've got to go to the doctor and you've got to take that time out of work. That's totally different, okay? But what we're talking about here is, don't let it get to that stage. You know, you can stop it before that. But employers don't necessarily focus on that. They tend to treat more of the symptoms. So if you think about it, a lot of the budgets go towards things like mindfulness apps, lunchtime yoga classes, some well-being sessions, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you imagine a cake, like a cupcake, and you know, everything I described about kind of organization, the way the organization is run, there are some key ingredients that need to go into that kind of cupcake mixture, okay? Like if you imagine the cupcake is the healthy workplace, and it's things like fairness in the organization. So people feel that they're being fairly treated and there isn't favoritism going on. They feel that they have a sense of control. So they feel like they, you know, flexibility, freedom to be able to choose, you know, a manageable workload that stretches them, but doesn't stretch them too much or doesn't underwhelm them. They feel appreciated. That's really important. That often goes quite neglected. There's that sense of community. That's number 5. And then the 6th ingredient is values. So do your values align with that organization? Those are the 6 key ingredients that go into the healthy workplace cupcake, if you like. And then on top of that, you've got the cherry. And the cherry might be things like the mindfulness apps, the yoga classes, having some workshops, a day off, you know, and those kind of things. But like I say, that cherry is not an essential to make that cupcake, if you like. It's just a nice to have. And they're lovely things for the employer to do. But what they won't do is they won't prevent the burnout from happening.